Hi, Traveling Mike. Today we're in the Salado cemetery, and this is a fairly large one and an old one. And surprisingly, I have about 10 graves I'm looking for, and most of them are old ones. So I'm going to check out this older section behind me first to see if maybe most of these are in there. Come along, we'll see if we have some interesting finds today. Known for a lot of this. James Ferguson. Here's James Ferguson. Let's see. Born 1824, died 1876. That's him right there. And it has the plaque. You can freeze frame and read that if you'd like. But I'm surprised found one so fast. Has Mason. Another woodman of the world. Let's see, a little section of old ones over here. That one has a broken rose on it. I don't know if you can see it real well. This one, if you can see it a little bit, you can see there's a lily on that one. And here's some more holding hands, saying goodbye. Another one. Here's another little infant who is sleeping. You don't see a lot of these kind, but that's looks like a little girl. Let's see, I'm looking for a wheeler who died in 1908. Here's some wheelers over here. I don't know if he's in any of these or not. That's odd. That one's done sideways. Let's see. 1908. I don't know if there's a wheeler. There's a Oddfellow. Remember the Oddfellows? There's an old wheeler one, kind of handmade. That's not the right one either. There's a lot of these older headstones that have been knocked down and things. Here's one that's for a Mason and an Oddfellow. But some of the ones I think looking for may be knocked down and unreadable. Over here, though, is an interesting little family plot with a rock wall. Let's see what they have in here. Well, that one's interesting there. I don't know if you can see it. One on the right has God's hand coming down and taking the bud to heaven, and you can see the bottom of the branch below it, so he's taking that little baby home. Oddfellows, and I don't know if you can see underneath there, that one has a weeping willow. I don't know if you can see it in there or not. Yeah, weeping willow, which means sorrow. And a little lamb on that one for a baby. early settler to the area. He's a mason. There's a dove with an olive branch in it. They really have some interesting ones over here. Got the lilies on this one. I need to pay attention to what I'm looking for while I'm out here. Let's see what this one is. Here's the one we haven't seen before. The mother, but this one has a column which has been broken, which signifies the loss of the life. Usually columns mean they were like a pillar in the community and things, so she was probably someone really revered in the town. Here's an interesting one of George Bain, who was a minister, preacher and missionary, founded churches in Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, founding editor of a Baptist newspaper, but he's very here, and he's got his wife that has a really elaborate headstone here. It says he preached the gospel for 48 years. And here's another one shaking hands goodbye to their little daughter, looks like. So there's so many historic headstones out here, graves in this cemetery. This may just last forever here, but we'll shorten it down for you. Here's another one here with an open rose, which means it's a young person who died in the prime of life, and I think she's 25 years old is what it says. So and here's like 3 of them over here, all with their gates of heaven open. Let's continue on. Oh, here's something interesting I haven't seen. Let me go look over here. Robert Haley. Oh, we have to look that one up. I'm not familiar with those symbols, so we'll have to check that one up and look for it. This is an angel holding an olive branch, which means it's accompanying the soul to heaven, where it will find eternal peace. This one has some shaking hands saying farewell, but also has the laurel wreath around it, which means a victory over this life and death. Here's another one that has the gates of heaven open, and then you've got the New Jerusalem up here, and you got the peace, the holy dove up at the top. Oh no, that's the crown. I see it now. It's a little easier to see. It's a crown for God's glory. Those are always cool to see. Let's see what else we can find. There's another historical marker up here. Let's see what this one says. Well, here's on the way. Here's another interesting one. Has a column that is broken as well. The wreath also means, where they've run a life well run. She's only 25 years, so it has roses in it. But yeah, she was broken, cut down in the prime of life also with the column. Let's see, over here, what is this one? Dr. Samuel Jackson Jones. And let's see, he was taught at the college. Another one with the two columns and the arch above, which means it's the entryway into heaven. Let's see what's on the front side here. Oh, Hancock. Pearl and Zula. Oh, they look like they were sisters. Both died in 1890 on the same day in 1891. One's 8 years old, one's 10 years old. Well, I wonder what happened. There's so many stories out here, but it's really hard to find out the history on a lot of these. Well, let's continue our search. I'm looking for a Stephen Birdwell, but here's a Mary Birdwell. Has an interesting headstone. It's got the New Jerusalem on the top. There's a lily on the side. I can't tell anything on that side. It's kind of hard to read those. Maybe the other Birdwell is nearby here. We'll keep looking. There's a lot of Woodman of the World headstones out here with the tree trunks. And here's an interesting little infant one. Has the little angel face on it, which means the angel is what guided the soul to heaven. Let's see here. He was in the Confederate Army here. A lot of Confederate soldiers over here too. I've seen a lot of them. Let's keep looking. Here's an interesting headstone. The man was 80 years old, and it's not a Woodman of the World headstone, which usually uses a lot of logs, but this one does have a Mason symbol on it. But I would assume with all these little stumps that he's had 9 children. And possibly this one up here, which is just a small one, is maybe an infant that died shortly after birth or something. But that's an interesting one. All right, let's continue on. I'm not having a lot of luck finding my other headstones. There's so many things to distract you. Here are a couple of headstones which have the scroll on top. You heard me mention in another one, but the scroll represents the past that's unknown, the future that's unknown, and then the open spot is what is known, which is their death date. It's a pretty good representation on these. Here's a newer headstone, but it's very interesting. It has the etching of his airplane and of him in his flight suit and being a World War II fighter ace and Berlin airlift pilot. Well, thanks for joining me in the cemetery here. I hope it's not too windy to hear me. Let me turn around this way. Maybe this will be better. Anyway, thanks for joining me in the cemetery. The wind is blowing like crazy, so we're going to give it up for the day. I think I only found one, but there's so many interesting historic gravestones here that you could spend a long time here. A lot of them, though, are very worn, and you can't see what some of the names are, and a lot of them have several broken ones that you can no longer read either. So some of these, like I said, most of these we were looking for were all from the 1800s, late 1800s that they died. So they're either in some of these that you can't read or were we'll just have to take another day and come out here and look for them. But thanks for joining me in the Salado Cemetery.